felt it would be a mistake to put him over Austin on such a huge stage, and if there was no guarantee he'd be in the company a month from now. So Vince agreed to change the finish. Do you remember that being the case, that originally Austin was supposed to lose at WrestleMania 2?
Well, no, it was always debated back and forth as to what the hell we were going to do, and it wasn't always that Hogan was going to be switch babyface either. So there were a lot of different finishes, and as we got into it, Vince wanted to see what the hell he had in those guys. There was concern over Kevin holding up, there was concern over Scott behaving himself, and there was concern over Hulk being able to go again. So everything was played pretty damn close to the vest, and there were a lot of options back and forth every way. Once we got into it and you started to see Scott crumbling, that one was an easy decision to make at that point.
So here's the dirt sheet version. Alvarez wrote, here's where it gets weird. Nobody, not Vince or anybody on the writing crew, told anyone else about this decision to change the finish from Hall going over to Austin. Even Austin was not informed that the finish had been changed. So allegedly, on Saturday night, the night before WrestleMania, Paul went out drinking with a bunch of European fans and showed up hungover at WrestleMania. Austin blatantly stacked backstage because apparently he had said if Paul screwed up one more time, he was done. So there's some debate as to whether or not Hall was drinking the day before and how he appeared that day. But it's enough for Austin, allegedly, to go to Vince and say he thought it was unprofessional for him to show up in less than perfect condition to WrestleMania, and he demanded that the finish be changed. Vince had already decided to change it days earlier, so he just pretended like this was him giving in to Austin's demand, and now Austin's happy. According to the dirt sheets, this news really pisses off Hall, Nash, and X-Pac, who didn't know the now blame Austin. And their main gripe is the NWO is essentially killed if they come in hot and then do two jobs, one to Rock and one to Austin on the first pay-per-view. The writing crew was allegedly, according to the dirt sheets, not wanting to take any heat from Kevin Nash, so they just kept quiet and let Austin take all the heat. Do you remember any sort of spin or any sort of conversation like that at the time?
No, I don't. And that, again, this sounds like one of those deals where maybe Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, or X-Pac, talked to somebody and they said, hey, what if we did this? What if we did that? And they had in their mind that this is the finish that we're going to do. And no one had officially come in and said, hey, this is what we're going to do. Shit changes. And it changes hourly sometimes. Sure, you probably hear horror stories from Raw right now that they're changing shit throughout. Got 3 hours of Raw. They're probably changing shit in the first hour for the third hour. So to have to make that into more of a story than just simply something changing is making it more into a story than it actually was.
Do you remember there being discussion about a finish being changed the next night where they wanted Hall to lose the second time and Hall said no way? So they did a lame count out finish instead.
I don't know personally if Hall said no way. I have no idea, because that sounds like something where Vince would want to just make everybody good. They lost last night. And if the guys came back and said, I happen to agree with that, by the way, that for Hall to lose on the second night after WrestleMania, there's two schools of thought there. Beat him and be done with him. Vince didn't want to give up on him. So if you're not going to give up on him and you're going to continue, then don't beat him. But you also can't beat Hulk and Rock either. So you got to do a schmozz finish. That's just the nature of the beast.
The dirt sheets are already kind of guessing here that there's trouble in paradise, because they're freestyling, Alvarez is, that Austin is supposed to be a big part of this whole brand split Raw, and they kind of say in kayfabe that he has a clause in his contract where he could not be drafted and he will instead become a free agent to sign anywhere he wants. And they say the original plan was to be on Ric Flair's Raw team, which would put him in the same brand as Hall, Nash, and X-Pac. And then he's advertised at that Raw, and he's not there, of course. And he's advertised at the upcoming house shows, and he's not there, of course. And somewhere he does an interview where he says more than enough money to last him the rest of his life, which doesn't sound like the type of thing you say if you're going to go take a week off and see how your neck feels.
We didn't know.
Huh?
We didn't know.
You thought maybe that was it?
We had no idea. We didn't know if he was going to take 2 weeks off and be recharged and come back, or if he was going to go off and find out, you know what, not going to do this anymore. My body's beat up and it's time to hang it up. We didn't know. I don't think Steve knew.
Alvarez wrote of this show, Rock and Hogan cut a long promo on Raw about how the fans helped create it. Well, that's all well and good, but the simple fact is the WWF exists in its present form because of one man, and that man is Steve Austin. The WWF was losing money until Austin caught fire, and once he did, it was only a few short years until Vince McMahon was a billionaire, and the WWF had gobbled up every remaining full-time touring wrestling organization in the country. That is an undisputed fact. Scott Hall was a mid-carder in this company who became a superstar for a few years in WCW and then self-destructed. He was brought into the WWF and told very specifically that his old behavior would not be tolerated. He screwed up on his very first night in and was told he wasn't getting another chance. He allegedly screwed up the night before what could potentially be the single biggest money show in the history of the business. It appears Austin basically gave Vince an ultimatum. It's him and me. And McMahon chose not to fire Hall. End of story. Most likely, Vince didn't want to fire Hall and figured he could always patch things up with Austin at a later date. Perhaps he still can, but this is just the latest in a string of irrational decisions that McMahon has made over the last year. What say you?
You know, in a lot of ways, that's pretty damn accurate, because Vince didn't want to give up on Scott Hall. He simply didn't want to give up on him. And Vince can be weird about certain talent, so he just felt that he'll get through this. You know, guys always joke about the line outside of Vince's office, and a guy can be outside of Vince's office for an hour, pacing, pissed off at the world, and by God, when he gets in there, he's going to give Vince a piece of his mind. And he walks out working twice as many dates as he was before, that he wanted to get out of, and he's happy about it. You know, Vince will sprinkle the Vince dust on him, and we'll talk you into it, make it sound like it's your own idea. So I think that Vince just kind of had that confidence he'd make it all right. He'd make it work. Somehow, some way he'd make it.
And there's no
That's just who he is.
There's no heat on Austin for missing shows in Gainesville or the SmackDown or any of that.
No, we knew he was going to miss him. We knew.
He comes back on the April 1st Raw, and this is a situation where now they're trying to get, everyone is trying to get Austin to sign a contract. So Austin's meeting with Flair, and he's meeting with Vince, who's running SmackDown. Eventually, all three wind up in the ring, and Austin makes his decision. He shakes Flair's hand and says, business is business. He turns back to Vince, and he says, I've got one more thing to tell you about this contract, and tonight, April Fools, and gives him the stunner. Flair has a celebration and drinks beer with Austin, of course, afterwards, and it looks like Stone Cold is headed to Raw. Do you remember there being a meeting at that show about how things are going to be moving forward? Were there ever any sort of promises or concessions or discussions made about how the character and the creative may evolve from here?
It was basically, are you with us? Are you going to be able to go? And Steve was like, yeah, you know, I feel like I'm going to be able to go. But he wanted more focus. He wanted to be the guy.
Let me ask you this. Could you keep intermingling these two conversations here? Was there anyone in the company, not you, because I know you'll never take the heat, but was there anyone in the company who thought, hey, you know what? Maybe Austin's bullshitting on this injury deal. He's just using it as an excuse because he doesn't like the creative. But if he was in a featured spot he really liked, he'd soldier through. But since he's not, my neck hurts, I'm out of here, I'm not sure I can go. Now, I'm not saying that happened, but whenever this happens with Shawn Michaels, people say, oh, he just didn't want to do the job for Bret Hart. He's faking an injury. We don't necessarily hear that label applied to Steve Austin. Did anybody think like that? And if not, why is there a kind of a double standard for Shawn Michaels and Steve Austin?
Well, no, there wasn't any thought like that because we knew the situation with Steve, and it was basically Vince encouraging Steve to rest and take the time off. I think if it was left up to Steve, he probably would have done more, but you couple that with his grumblings and with his unhappiness with creative, and it's easy to come to that assumption, but I don't think that was a feeling at all. It wasn't on my end, and I had to deal with Steve on a pretty damn near daily basis during that time.
It's worth mentioning, too, that Austin is still struggling with that neck injury that you could probably trace all the way back to SummerSlam 1997, which I have no doubt we'll cover sometime in August for the 20-year anniversary. But Hobgoblin from Owen forever changed his life. He talks about it openly on his podcast now, but he's still got some issues from that. So I'm not insinuating that he's bullshitting the injury here. He's still dealing with it 15 months later. Let's talk about the plans for Backlash. They say the original plan was supposed to be Austin, Hogan, and Rock in a six-man against Hall, Nash, and X-Pac. But The Rock is off to do Scorpion King, and Nash is injured. So they have to kind of reshuffle. And the new main event is Triple H and The Undertaker. Do you remember this six-man being a conversation?
It was definitely a conversation, but then it was snake bit. It was absolutely snake bit. So from all of a sudden, hey Rock, we got this role for you that was good for him and good for the company, and then Kevin got hurt, so it just was like, damn, just one thing after another. So yeah, it just shit happens.
Kind of a funny note from Alvarez covering the April 15th Raw. He talked about how there was a situation where Flair had to fine Steve Austin, and he fined him $5,000. I found that hilarious because I think Austin at this point is probably making something like $1,200 an hour, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year. Austin's at the pinnacle of the business. And I don't know, it just seems kind of funny that there's a fine handed down here for $5,000.
Well, in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, they had a ladder match that had a check for $1,000 and hanging from the middle of the ring, and they actually had a ladder match, but the guys were touching the check with their heads when they were crisscrossing. And it's $1,000, Beckley, West Virginia. That's a lot of money, motherfucker.
Well, I'll tell you what,
$5,000 is a lot of money.
And it's a lot of money you can save over at SaveWithBruce.com, am I right?
Oh, hell yeah. No matter what you're doing, you need a mortgage for your new home, you can go to SaveWithBruce.com. Or you already have a mortgage and you got a whole bunch of bills like your car note, your credit card, and you want to consolidate all that, just come visit us over at SaveWithBruce.com. You don't need perfect credit, and we can definitely help you save money over at SaveWithBruce.com.
You can even skip your next two house payments. Take a summer vacation from house payments and go to SaveWithBruce.com. And I'm talking to you if you've got a 30-year loan, if you've got credit card debt, if you've got a second mortgage. Man, it's not a matter of if we can save you money. It's a matter of how much. And you can find out right now for free over at SaveWithBruce.com. NMLS number 65084, equal housing lender. So let's talk about what we've got coming up next. We've got Austin and Bradshaw taking on the NWO and the Undertaker. It breaks down into a Pier 6 brawl, and Bradshaw ends up getting the win, pinning X-Pac of all people after a clothesline from hell. And Taker kills Austin with a chair shot to the head as the NWO destroys Bradshaw in the middle of the ring. This, to me, feels a little crazy when you know you've got a guy who's got some sort of, neck issue, and you're just laying into him with a chair shot. Was anybody even thinking about stuff like that at that point?
You know, that it's crazy. You look at it again, you look at it in hindsight and you just shake your head. And I cringe when I watch some of the chair shots that were leveled on guys and just think of the injuries that they had, what they were taking when they had injuries. It's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. But God, I wish that a little bit more consideration had been taken. There's no way to protect yourself.
So after having this conversation about Austin wanting to be in a more featured spot on his return, he's wrestling The Undertaker in a #1 contender match at the next pay-per-view, which is the Backlash on April 21st at Kemper Arena. And the special guest referee is the Raw GM, Ric Flair. And even though Austin has his foot on the rope, Flair counts the pin anyway. This comes after 27 minutes. Alvarez gave it 1.5 stars, so he didn't love it. And Austin lost. You've got 3 of the biggest stars in the history of the business here, Austin, Undertaker, and Ric Flair, but he's losing again. Is there any sort of, hey, this is more same old shit from Austin? Or at this point, has that not turned sour?
No, I don't think so, because he's going into the program, you know, with Ric Flair, and he knew that he was still going to be featured. So, plus it's Undertaker, but it was an angle. It wasn't, you know, losing a match. I think people put way too much stock in, you know, the W's and L's in the record book. It was to further an angle.
Well, the next night on Raw, Flair apologizes and says he wouldn't do anything in this world to hurt Steve Austin. From the bottom of my heart, Stone Cold, I apologize. And he tries to make it up by giving Austin the match he wants, which is Austin Bradshaw versus the NWO in the main event. But later, we see Bradshaw unconscious backstage, and Flair has decided that the Big Show will be Austin's substitute partner. And of course, we know where this goes. The match ends when Big Show turns on Austin and gives him a choke slam and joins the NWO on the spot. This came out of nowhere because Big Show was a face, and as we know, he's turned a lot over his career. Why was the decision made here, if Austin is allegedly not wanting to do business with the NWO, to just double down on it and have him leave him laying again?
Again, you get stuck. You book yourself into a corner, and it's what we had. And then you got the NWOs quickly dwindling. You got, you know, Kevin Nash, who's hurt, Hogan's left, and Hall's, well, what the hell you got here? Still not sure. So I know what we do. Put another guy in there. It just, you know, brutal. And it's kind of like Scotch tape booking a lot of times.
What do you mean?
You're just trying to patch up holes. You're trying to fix things, and instead of scrapping something and trying to go something new, you're trying to save something that you had because you so desperately wanted this so fucking bad that you're okay. Hey, what if we lost one big 7-foot motherfucker? Let's put another big 7-foot motherfucker in there.